Hey, Microsoft 365 Nation, Harry here, going around the horn. It's fishing season. It's August. We're with Ken Dwight out of Houston. I'm sure it's boy, pretty warm and humid in August, as I understand, down that neck of the way. Is that right, Ken?
Pretty safe bet, Harry.
Okay. Well, hopefully you have air conditioning indoors where you're sitting. Hey, Ken,
Yeah.
let's just jump right into it. I'm excited. Cleaning up after a tech support scammer. Sir, these people like action. Let's go.
All right. Well, this is something that it's been a problem for the last 10 years, but especially in the last couple of years, it seems to have really picked up steam. And it mostly affects home users or small businesses. It's not as much an enterprise issue, but these tech support scammers get hold of somebody and convince them that we're with Microsoft, we're Windows support, we're
Yep.
whatever, and we've detected you've got viruses on your computer, and so let us connect to you and we'll take care of it for you. And
Yep.
this is actually excerpted from a recorded, what I call a mini course that I have on the subject. But I'm really going to hit the highlights here, mainly to let your audience and your viewers know the main things they need to keep in mind if they are cleaning up after one of these. Because in most cases, the victim usually figures out they've been scammed, then they call a reputable tech support person, or if they're an MSP client or somebody that you're working with regularly, then they'll call you instead of calling you first. But there are a lot of resources out there talking about the whole issue in general. There's a Wikipedia page that defines a tech support scam, and there's an article in Microsoft. And when you see references here to the workbook, the people that buy this whole course get a 24-page workbook along with it. So just disregard those. Know that there are additional resources behind the bullet points here.
Yep. Validation. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And of course, you can do a search on YouTube for tech support scam and see a lot of examples. Most of these are techies that are trying to just give the bad guys a hard time and keep them on the phone and that sort of thing. So not my form of entertainment, but point is you can see what this looks like if you really want to.
There you
So
go.
several ways it happens. Most commonly an unsolicited phone call. They just dial and smile, and they've got pretty good contact list. Actually, they seem to target people in my age group, the senior citizens over
Yep.
60, 65s, but nobody is immune to getting one of those calls, and they're pretty convincing. A more recent variation on that is to have a pop-up tab in the browser.
Yep.
And a lot of them have sound effects, either a siren or an alarm or warning, 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 or something
Yep.
real threatening sounding like that. And usually when they do that, they sometimes look like a blue screen of death, but the tip off there is a true blue screen does not have a phone number to call.
Yep.
So in a lot of cases, they'll force the browser to a full screen, and so the average user can't even close the browser. Another way they can get it is they do a Google search for anything support, Windows support, phone support, Yahoo support, whatever. All of those are going to take you to bogus sites. So don't do that. Also, spam email. And there again, there's some examples that in some cases look very legitimate.
Yep. Yep.
So what they usually do is install remote control software. And in most cases, it's a well-known legitimate program like AMI or TeamViewer.
Okay.
And most of what they're trying to do is to charge the victim for unneeded services and or software.
Yep.
And sometimes they'll show the victim the symptoms of the infection. They'll have the user pull up the error log and see all these errors. So that's their way of convincing the average user that, yeah, you really do have a problem. Sometimes we'll actually install some free software and do a scan with it. And so once again, it looks like they're doing something, but it's all completely bogus. But there's also a recent variation. They're not even asking for payment. They're claiming that they're from Apple. And your account has been compromised. It's been used by websites in China and Russia. And so we need to help you change your passwords and all your financial accounts.
Yeah.
So
yep.
They won't even ask for money. They'll just have their keylogger going while you're changing all your passwords.
Ken, a couple of thoughts. One is I saw an interesting, I don't know, come up for TV news up here somewhere. I read it, but it's really interesting. You know, when and hear me out. When I first moved to Seattle 30 plus years ago, rode the Microsoft wave. And I was starting out and, this and that. And lobby bank robberies were fairly common, right? Like, I mean, the breaking news at 5 p.m. would be today up in Northgate, there was a holdup and the bandit got away with a sack full of money. And there was a recent piece that lobby robberies are way down. Because why would you do that when you can do this? I mean, it was quite a compelling story, because today's bank robber can do this from afar and have a lot less likelihood of getting caught. And says that makes sense, but why carry a gun into a lobby and get 15 years because you have a gun in your possession, right?
Not only that, most of these are actually from overseas, and so they're not susceptible to our laws anyway.
Yeah. All right, please continue.
Okay, well, the main thing I want to get across from this brief presentation is just let the techs know that you can make the system usable and safe again without taking drastic measures. One possible exception, in some cases, they'll set a syskey password, which can be tricky. You may be able to resolve it, but other than that, it's pretty easy and straightforward to recover the system, make it usable and safe again. There's no need to wipe and reload it.
Yep.
No creating a new user profile or any of the stuff that a lot of techies like to do, waste a lot of time and can make things worse in some ways for the user. So generally speaking, the scammers don't install any malware, but they could, and so there's no harm in scanning for it.
Yep.
But as a starting point, what I recommend you do is go into Task Manager, look at the Startup tab, and see what's starting up automatically. Look for any remote control type software. Now, this is actually a screenshot from one of my computers, and notice Instant House Call is starting up automatically, which is the program that I use for remote support. But if you see TeamViewer or Log Me In or any other program in there like that, that the user isn't aware that they're using, then that's a pretty good indication that the bad guys have left their calling card behind and can get back in at any time. So that's one of the first things you want to look for and get rid of. Also, I mentioned that the alert may have come through a pop-up tab in a browser, may look like a blue screen, and if that's the case, the client probably doesn't know how to close the tab or the whole browser. So what you need to do is go ahead and close that using Task Manager and kill the process.
Now, Ken, question for you, that has happened to me, and I'm like any small business owner, just full speed and flat out. And I, quite frankly, have rebooted in the past when that's happened. I just didn't slow down enough to think about Task Manager. But are you seeing that doggone it, just reboot and get a fresh start?
I've never seen a case where you needed to reboot or that there's really any benefit to it. So just closing the browser should take care of it.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
But then I've actually got a 16-step process, and just going to run through these bullet points real quickly. Look for and kill any remote control software. We've talked about that. Go to Programs and Features and look for any other potentially malicious programs by sorting on the installed on date, and look for any recent installations of any suspicious programs. And on the next slide, I've got a list of what those might look like. So uninstall any of those programs, and here's just a brief overview. Anything that looks like a system type program, computer speed up, tune up, driver updates, registry cleaners, toolbars, any of that stuff, go ahead and get rid of all of it. And that may not have actually been put on there by the scammer, but while you're in there and making the machine better and cleaner anyway, might as well do your best.
Yep.
So then make sure that none of your browsers have been set to open to the malicious page. Yep. And so any browser they're using, go ahead and open it by typing in the name. Don't click on the icon. Type in the name and see if that opens normally. And if you have killed the process to close the browser before, it may offer to restore the previous session. Tell it no, you don't want to do that.
Okay.
And then once it's open normally and it's on its default home page, then go ahead and close it normally. And do the same thing for any other browser they may have installed or may be using. Then go ahead and scan for malware, and I recommend using the Malwarebytes tool set. That's not the standard free Malwarebytes provided program that a lot of techies are used to using. It's a separate program from Malwarebytes called the Malwarebytes tool set. That's a portable executable that doesn't require any installation, and it does give you a more complete options in terms of finding and removing any malware that might be on there. But the free one is not licensed for commercial use, and it doesn't have all the functionality, and it takes longer to run than the one in the tool set. Startup tab in Task Manager and disable any programs that the scammer might have been starting up automatically. And of course, in the older operating systems, use msconfig and uncheck the boxes there. Look for and get rid of any programs or files that might have been found in that previous step. Those will mostly be exe or HTML files, but there may be some JPEGs in there and some others you can identify and get rid of. Then reboot, make sure it comes up normally and in a reasonable time. And if it does, then you're pretty well assured that everything is back to the way it should be. At that point, I recommend you go ahead and create a restore point, but verify the system restore is enabled for the C drive and you have enough space allocated. It may have been disabled or there may not be any space allocated to it. So make sure the right pieces are in place before you do the restore point. Then empty the recycle bin and change passwords on any financial accounts if the scammer had them make any of those changes. And of course, it's not a bad idea to change them anyway. And if they did pay the scammer for anything, tell them they need to go ahead and contact their credit card company and protest those charges. And the credit card company will pretty well identify that they are, in fact, bogus charges and take them off. Debit card may not be quite so easy, or if they had them go out and buy Apple iTunes gift cards, well, that money's gone.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the whole procedure. And again, there's just to summarize here, you can clean up after tech support scammer, but they rarely have much technical smarts. They're just following a procedure that they bought from somebody. It's a boiler room type operation. And so you're not dealing with sophisticated techies here, but they are very persuasive. They're good marketers. They have very effective scripts they're working from, and even some very smart people have fallen for it. And sometimes I have some clients and know of some people that have been victimized 2 and even 3 times, maybe by the same scammers or maybe others they're working with or passing the contact information along to. But if you follow this methodology and the 16-step procedure, then you can make the computer fully trustworthy again. And again, if you want to get the full course, it is available to you. It includes a 24-page workbook. It's a 45-minute recorded session. And also with that, you get updates to the material for 30 days from the purchase date. And you also get direct access to me with any questions for 30 days. So there's my email address, and there's the website with the details down the order form.
www.thevirusdoc.com/scammer. No, I love it. Now, Ken, I'll end on this. I once had a call like this, and the way I dealt with it was, and Lord knows how my phone rang. The call came in, and I said, well, I'm on a sailboat. You know, the call starts with the assumption you're in front of your computer, right? Like, yeah. They do. It's very assumptive. And I took care of the call by saying, I'm out in Puget Sound, man. I'm halfway between Bainbridge Island and Seattle on a sailboat. What are you doing? You know, call me back or whatever. But that's had a little bit of fun with it. But, you know, just basically was communicated I was not in front of a computer. I mean, there's no way I could do what he wanted. And, you know, at that point, to your point about those YouTube videos, at that point, you're just kind of wasting their time, and they don't like that.
And frankly, I don't want to waste my time doing that. But if that's what floats your boat, then have at it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right, my friend, we'll enjoy the humidity of August. Stay indoors, and we'll see you, you know, realistically after Labor Day. Before you know it, it'll be here, and then we'll all be back to work for the final push, man, the second half of the year, as they say. Ken, thanks so much for being one of our frequent and consistent contributors here at Microsoft 365 Nation. Folks, have a great day.